All right, sir.
Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session for Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. 9:02 a.m. My name is Ty Mincer, Chair of the Board. In the boardroom, we have Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards, Commissioner Carolina Mejia, County Manager Amir Chavez. A whole bunch of staff joining us through Zoom. The public can join us on our Thurston County YouTube channel, where this meeting will be live streamed and archived. So we got 3 hours. We'll have a break in the middle, and I see Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, and we'll just jump right in with item number 1, COVID-19 update. I see Director of Public Health and Social Services, Shelley Slaughter. Good morning, Shelley.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. Today marks day 559 of Thurston County's COVID-19 emergency response. We continue to see an alarming rise in the number of COVID cases across the nation, the state, and here locally in Thurston County. In Washington state, there have been 514,884 confirmed cases of COVID-19 since the pandemic began, and 6,248 Washingtonians that have lost their lives due to COVID. This includes 13,436 Thurston County residents who've been confirmed to have COVID-19, with a record number of 723 new confirmed COVID cases in the last week. That puts us on the governor's dashboard risk assessment over the last 2 weeks at an all-time high rate of 360.1. In terms of deaths, there have been 128 Thurston County residents that have lost their lives due to COVID. 3 new deaths occurring this last week, one in a 32-year-old female. There have been 864 Thurston County residents hospitalized since the pandemic began. 7 new Thurston County residents have been hospitalized this week, but our hospital capacity is experiencing extremely high occupancy rates. In our hospital Thurston County region, the region that Thurston County is in, which includes Thurston County, Grays Harbor County, Lewis County, and Pacific County, for the total hospitals in that region, 85.1% of our beds are full. 15.9% of those acute beds are occupied by COVID patients, and 23.3% of our regional ICU capacity is full with COVID patients. Again, this is regional numbers. Thurston County is a regional hub with Providence St. Peter Hospital being the largest acute critical care hospital in the region. And so I want to share with you what our Thurston County local hospital census looks like as of this morning. As of this morning, in both Capital Medical Center and St. Peter's Hospital, there are 64 COVID patients hospitalized. This is by far an all-time high number. 27 of those are on ventilators. And in terms of total ventilators we have available in Thurston County, there are 3 listed this morning. There is a critical staffing shortage. This is not only true of our local hospitals, but across Washington state. And there are crisis plans and emergency plans happening now with state and local and hospital officials to address this issue. Moving on to vaccines, there have been 305,718 doses of COVID-19 administered here by Thurston County providers. 377 doses have been administered by Thurston County Public Health at our community-based and mobile vaccine clinics in the last week. 53.3% of our total population has initiated at least 1 dose of COVID-19 vaccine, and 50.6% of our population is vaccinated. So that is good news that we have edged above the 50% mark, but keep in mind, we still have those under age 12 who are not yet eligible for the vaccine. 65.7% of those 16 and older have initiated at least one dose of vaccine, which pushes Thurston County a little bit closer to that 70% statewide goal that we were trying to reach back in July. So we are making slow but steady progress. 60.2% of those 16 and older are fully vaccinated. 64.4% of those 12 and older have initiated at least one dose, and 58.9% of 12 and older are fully vaccinated. I would like to put that last number in perspective for you. Of our population, 12 and older, that is eligible to get the COVID-19 vaccine, over 100,000 people who are eligible have not currently received the vaccine yet in Thurston County. We do have lots of vaccine events available. We are at Capitol Mall 7 days a week. We have homebound vaccines that we can offer to those who cannot get to a vaccine site. We will be at Timberline High School Cider Fest this week and many other locations throughout Thurston County. Strongly urge people to get vaccinated. We have seen an increase in the number of people seeking vaccines since the governor's requirement that all state workers and healthcare workers get vaccinated this last week. So that is encouraging. And also just wanted to share with everyone that as our test positivity rate continues to be the highest it has been, above 13%, we do have testing available that is at no cost to Thurston County residents seeking testing at Ruth today, Rochester Organization of Families in Rochester. We will be in the city of Lacey tomorrow, at Union Gospel Mission the following day, and Evergreen State College on Friday. I know lots of people are wanting testing and looking for locations to get tested, and we keep that information up to date regularly on our Thurston County Public Health and Social Services website, and that's also where you can find our vaccine schedule and other important information. And with that, I will pass it to Dr. Abdelmalek for any other updates.
Morning, commissioners. Our case counts do continue to rise, and they are currently, just echoing what Director Slaughter said, they are at their highest point that we've seen throughout this pandemic. The R0, which is the estimate of the number of new cases or the number of new people infected when one person is infectious, is the highest it has been since the beginning of the pandemic in Western Washington. So the most recent estimate is that value is 2.9, meaning that on average, each new case leads to 2.9 additional infections. So this is definitely concerning news. We are watching disease trends throughout our county, and particularly looking at young people who this past week, folks under the age of 19 comprised 23% of new cases, which is the largest fraction of any of our age brackets. We have seen in Washington State to date 5,879 confirmed breakthrough cases, and that's statewide. This is still a very small number compared to the millions of Washingtonians who have become fully vaccinated. However, with the Delta variant, we have learned that even folks, so while vaccines are safe, effective, reduce risk of infection, as well as reduce risk of severe illness and death, with the Delta variant, there is still the possibility for people, even people who are fully vaccinated, to become infected and spread disease. And this is why I made my masking directive, asking all Thurston County residents, even if you're fully vaccinated, to wear masks in indoor public spaces until our case counts decline. and our hospital capacity improves. So I want to, I would also like to encourage every Thurston County resident who is eligible for vaccine and has not yet accessed vaccine to take advantage of one of our vaccination clinics as soon as they're able to initiate that process. A combination of masking, vaccination, as well as other mitigation measures are our best hope at driving down this infection curve. Thank you so much. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Mejia?
Yes, I do have a question. I got asked this. It's what percentage of the positive cases are breakthrough cases?
So I don't have that specific. I don't have that specific number at this point. I'm happy to get back to you on that one.
Yes.
But I can tell you it's an exceedingly small fraction because cumulatively it's been less than 6,000 breakthrough cases that have been confirmed for the whole state of Washington since we started tracking.
Thank you. And the reason I asked that question specifically is I did have a conversation with a constituent who's fully vaccinated, and they were like, well, how worried should I be? I'm fully vaccinated and I'm still wearing my mask, but they don't know if they should just, how careful, they should be. And I feel with the vaccine, some people kind of let their guard down a little bit, and now as they're seeing the numbers rise back up again, there have been a lot of questions on how many breakthrough cases there are. So if we could start sharing that information, I feel it would be very helpful to those of us who are vaccinated and just seeing that risk. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir. Shelley, could you give me a little more clarification on the number of kids under 12 that represent Thurston County? I mean, do you have that information? You said something about there's 100,000 people in the county that have not been vaccinated, and I take it that includes that group under 12?
No, sir. That specific metric that I was sharing was of those 12 and up that are eligible, 64.4% have initiated at least one dose of vaccine. But what that translates to is approximately 100,000 Thurston County residents that are over age 12 that are presumably eligible to get the vaccine that have not yet done so. And there may be other reasons why people may not seek the vaccine, or may not be eligible to get the vaccine, but that's a relatively small number. So that's estimated to be about 100,000 Thurston County residents.
Would you guess that demographic of our society that has the possibility of a poor outcome, so seniors and underlying conditions, have most of those people been vaccinated that you can tell?
We would really have to do some deeper data analysis to give you an accurate answer to that number, or to answer that question. We have had, in terms of our elder population over age 65, that is the largest group of people that have been vaccinated in our community, and that is above 80% at the last time that I looked at it. So in terms of those with underlying conditions, it's a little bit more difficult to break that down with the census data that we have available to us, but we could try to make some.
I don't need specifics. I'm just trying to get a general feeling. Of those folks that have come down with this virus, what's the percentage of those folks that have died, or I guess died? I'd have to say that as a percentage. I mean, it's still a very, very minute percentage, isn't it?
In Thurston County, it's listed by Washington State Department of Health as 1% of our population that has died of COVID.
And
Or a little bit less, I mean, less than 1%.
okay, well, what's that number that have died? Because we can all figure that out with our population base, I guess.
128 Thurston County residents.
Out of 300,000. Okay. Has that changed with this new variant? Has there been a dramatic change between prior, I guess, post the variant we're dealing with versus the prior COVID?
Dr. A?
Yeah, so we're still gathering that data. We are seeing so many new cases, and we're seeing more severe illness in younger populations. However, younger populations are also less likely to have been fully vaccinated. So it'll take a little bit of time to sort out exactly what the driving factors are. But I have been seeing over the last couple of months younger people represented in our death count than prior.
Okay, thank you.
Shelley, going back to hospitalization situation, can you describe if 4 people today need ventilators in Thurston County and there's only 3? Can you describe what happens? I mean, you alluded to some planning, but I think people would like to kind of hear kind of what would happen in that situation for that 4th person.
Right. So what our hospitals frequently do, and quite often have had to due to these high census numbers, is to divert to other local hospitals. So hospitals coordinate in the region their available resources, including things such as ventilators and ICU beds, and would divert the patient who needed that level of care to a hospital that had that available. We do have the ability as a county to request additional resources from the state, and that does include things like PPE and important equipment like ventilators. We have not had to do so yet in terms of ventilators, but there are that can be requested if needed as well. But every hospital everywhere in Washington is experiencing a really similar problem. And so that makes it extra challenging. Our whole entire statewide hospital system is stressed and experiencing limited staffing resources and bed shortages. And so that ability to transfer patients around gets a lot trickier for our EMS personnel, and Director Harden could probably provide you, I see he's not on this call today, but could probably provide a more specific data and details if you were interested in what that looks like.
Thank you. I heard a statistic, and I don't think it was local, so I'm going to ask you if it correlates to local situation, but it was that 3% of hospitalizations were people who are vaccinated. 97% of hospitalizations are unvaccinated folks. Is that along the lines of what we're seeing in Thurston County, or do you know?
Dr. A, I see you just unmuted yourself, so.
So I will say that I've been seeing a variety of numbers, like depending on how they're aggregated. But the vast majority of numbers that I've been seeing for Washington State and regionally have more than 95% or more of folks who are requiring hospitalization for COVID-19 related illness being in the unvaccinated or not fully vaccinated category. Shelley, does that align with what you've also seen? But the specific percentage, of course, I've been seeing some flux around that.
Okay, any last questions for this crew? County manager or?
Yeah, I have a quick question for Shelley.
Yep.
Obviously, we have seen an increase on demand for testing based on numbers that we've seen. Have you seen an increase in vaccination on the many different clinics? From your perspective, that seems to be steady.
We have seen an increase over the last couple of weeks. I think as people became more aware and concerned about the Delta variant, and then again, most recently with the latest governor's vaccine requirement, we have seen traffic at our mobile clinics and our mall clinic increase quite a bit from what we're used to seeing. We've seen that about doubling on several days. So that's really encouraging. We hope we're going to continue to see that kind of an increase. Testing sites as well. There's been very high demand at our testing sites.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing nothing further. Shelley, Dr. A, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2 this morning is homeless strategies update, and there's Keely Marino from our Homeless and Housing Prevention Office.
Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino, Public Health and Social Services. So a couple of updates today. Last week, we declared a hazardous weather event for the hot weather Wednesday through Friday. On Wednesday, we, through our contract with Partners in Prevention Education, increased dispersal of survival goods, primarily water. We delivered mountains of water into all of the encampments to ensure that everyone was hydrated. And that included other partners, of course, as well. So Olympia Mutual Aid Partners participated in that, and the Olympia Free Clinic, when we had our vaccination clinic on Benson Road, all participated in distributing the water. And then we had a cooling center from 1 to 7 p.m. downtown at the Old City Fire Hall. So many thanks to City of Olympia for offering that space to us again. We saw a total of 94 unique individuals utilize that space. Water and other cooling, popsicles, what have you, fruit were available to individuals who came in to seek refuge from the heat. Masking was required, physical distancing was required, and that went fairly smoothly. So another success on Friday, we did have Olympia Free Clinic show up also. So there was a nurse on site for any wound care concerns. And also the vaccines were available for individuals there who would like to access them. So big thanks to Olympia Free Clinic for their efforts. And Interfaith Works provided the staffing as well as Partners in Prevention Education. So thank you to them. The TRAP, or the Rental Assistance Program, update for today is the numbers are pretty staggering, even though I report on them every week. So from Community Action Council, they've paid out nearly $10 million to date, 9.7 million. What is exciting, that's 1,454 households completely served at this point. 58% of those households are below 30% area median income. So serving predominantly those who are in most need of help for rental assistance. Another thing to note is that Treasury, the Department of Treasury at the federal level, required that of our 18 million, that 65% of that total be spent by the end of September. And we're happy to announce that 100% of those funds will be spent down by the end of September. Community Youth Services also continues to serve youth and young adults with ever increasing numbers of households served in the 18 to 24-year-old population. And then finally, we just want to, carrying on with the Olympia Free Clinic shout outs, we continue to operate a weekly vaccine clinic for people who are living unsheltered. I've been helping to organize that, but all the effort has been through Olympia Free Clinic and some outreach volunteers. And so we continue to do that on a weekly basis on Wednesdays from 3 to 6. And we make planning efforts on a weekly basis. So To this point, we've had 50 or 51 individuals who are unsheltered receive vaccines, which is good. That's a good number. So that's it for me today.
Questions for Keely? Commissioner Mejia?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
I don't either. I just never cease to be amazed at Olympia Free Clinic and all the work they do. So just please express the board's, thank you when you have the opportunity, Keely. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay. Item 3 is a review of the draft agenda for this afternoon's meeting. Shorter agenda compared to our more recent ones. The meeting will be called to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Edwards. We'll consider the agenda and meeting minutes. We will have a presentation from Public Works regarding N1 emergency bridge repair project completion.
Thank you, Commissioner. You will hear from Public Works. The successful emergency refers to the 85-year-old bridge located on the Nisqually Cutoff Road southeast. And that was a total cost of $125,000. So Public Works will give you additional perspective this afternoon on that.
Okay, see Matt Unzelman. Anything, Matt, we need to know in advance?
Nope. I think you guys will be pleased.
Okay, very good. Questions from the board?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, opportunity for the public to address the board at that point, and county manager's update.
Yeah, we received a couple of public testimony last week, and on your agenda today, later on, we'll address some of the specifics of those comments.
Okay, well then we'll take that up when we get there. Consent agenda is proposed to have 4 items. Item 3A is Astound Broadband Stone Peak Transfer of Indirect Control.
Yeah, Commissioners, on March 23rd, 2021, the board approved granting a non-exclusive telecommunications franchise agreement to Astound Broadband. Since this particular company has been purchased by Stone Peak. So this particular item is for the board to concur and consent with the transfer of ownership of this particular facility, this particular franchise agreement. And as a result, all the financial, legal, and technical information included within the franchise agreement will be transferred to the new owner. Somewhat of a transactional item for your consideration.
Questions from the board on this item?
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
Why are we authorizing transition of ownership or something in a private enterprise? Is there some RCW that forces our hand on that? What happens if we don't do it? Are we getting a piece of the action? I'm just trying to figure out why we're meddling in private enterprise, and I suppose maybe something to do with FCC or something. I just don't know.
So the item for you is to consent. And because the franchise agreement the county has is with the Astound Broadband, and that company no longer will be existent by name. So this is, you consent with just the change of name and ownership on the franchise agreement the county has with the telecommunication company.
Okay.
Kind of like staying out of the transactions, by us allowing the transfer, then we're not interfering in their, transfer of this business.
But that's fine. I mean, I'm not against it. I was just trying to understand it.
The county is not approving the sale, the transaction of the ownership.
We're just kind of recognizing a name change?
Right,
Is that
because-
what we're doing?
Yeah, because on March 23rd, 2021, the county approves a franchise agreement to Astound Broadband. And that company is no longer in existence after this purchase.
Okay.
That's true. But I think that our franchise agreements do require approval of the county before they take actions like this. Because we approve when they move their office, we approve any transaction that may affect our citizens.
Right,
So-
in this case, my understanding is they consent because nothing changes within the context of the franchise
That's
agreement.
right, we're nothing else, but the board does need to give, if you did not, you asked what would happen if we didn't do this, they couldn't complete the transaction.
Okay. Just a formality.
It is a formality, it's all outlined in our agreements.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mejia, anything?
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll look at item 3B, Public Works, increase to existing change fund.
Yeah, Commissioners, for your consideration is for, to increase the change fund by $300,000. That's located on the Rainier drop box. And this action, if you approve, that will bring the cash fund up to $1,400.
Questions on this?
Yes, I have one question. If we're going to do that for the Rainier drop box, what about the Rochester drop box? Are they coming in next week and they need to have an adjustment as well, or could we do it all at once?
Well, I don't know because on the other drop box, we have not seen the need for cash transactions.
One group of the community uses cash more than the other group? I'm just trying to simplify the process for the future, but
I will
okay,
not be
no,
able to answer that question.
I'm fine with it, just wondering if there wasn't a way to simplify things. I do see somebody on the screen.
Karen Weiss is here. Karen, anything to say to address that question?
Good morning, Commissioners. I would, yes, the answer is that our Rainier Dropbox has a much higher customer volume than does our Rochester Dropbox. They've both had increases in customers, but Rainier by far, from a customer count on the weekends, outpaces Rochester. So we are running out of change more frequently at Rainier.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then item 3C is a sheriff's item we looked at last week regarding Rainier School District.
Yeah, for your consideration is a renewal with the city of Rainier. We provide the school resource officers within the sheriff's office. And this is for the school year 2021-2022 at a cost of $40,000 paid by the city of Rainier. And again, this is the resource officer services the sheriff's office provides, and there's a renewal of the contract that will come with the city of Rainier.
Any questions, Commissioner Mejia?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
I see the undersheriff's here. Thank you, Ray. I think we're good to go on that one. Item 3D is the Auditor Financial Services Voucher List. Any questions from the board?
No questions at this time.
Wow.
Pretty fast, huh?
We don't have any, do I have the wrong agenda in my hand, or do we have department items? All right, well, this could be a pretty quick meeting. The commissioners at that point would report on board work sessions, community events, county manager reviewing our schedule, and that's it. Is that right, county manager?
That is correct, sir.
All right, well, we'll have a pretty efficient meeting then this afternoon. Okay, then let's go to, yeah, short and sweet. Let's go to the next item on this morning's agenda, which is a review of the proposed agenda for next Tuesday's board meeting, August 24th. That meeting would be called to order at 2 p.m. We have a public hearing at 3 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance would be led by Commissioner Mejia. We'll look at the agenda and board meeting minutes, opportunity of the public to address the board, and county manager's update as per usual. Any items to address up front, Ramiro?
No, sir, I have a couple items before you start getting down to the details of the agenda, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so the August 24th, as opposed to today's agenda, is going to be a little bit beefier. But also on your agenda, there is not two items that will bring for your attention next week. I'm not quite ready yet. One is I will ask the board to rescind and reapprove a revised ordinance implementing the CPACER program. In the last couple of weeks, while we were going through the process of reviewing the ordinance that which you approved, there were some changes that needed to be done in order to address some of the concerns the Jeff Guyman, the county treasurer, had. So we had a large conversation with attorneys. Finally, this morning, I got a final draft. I believe that the changes are not significant in context, but certainly it requires the board to be aware of those changes. So I will bring an item for you to consider rescinding the previous ordinance and approving the new ordinance, and I will be ready to give you at a high level what those changes are. So that's one item. It's not included in this agenda, but you will see that on your agenda for next week. The other item that I have is as a result of the conversation, the planning session that you had on Friday. We'll have a resolution for your final consideration related to vaccination requirements for county employees. And that item will be coming for your formal consideration next Tuesday. Those are the two items that are not included on your agenda today, but you will see those items next week. Any questions on those two items?
The county treasurer's here. Jeff, is there anything that you wanted to let us know about the CPACER revisions?
So where my concern came in is that the state law that passed the legislature specifies that no county resources will be spent to collect, delinquent funds or to collect any of the funds. And in the collection section, section 9 in the ordinance that was passed, there was a section there that actually directed the county treasurer to do something which effectively was using county resources. And so talking to prosecuting attorney for my office and for your office, we came up with some language that solves that issue without substantively changing the ordinance.
Okay, any questions for Ramiro or Jeff on those two items that are coming next week? Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
Yes, just a quick clarification. If we change a ordinance, do we have, we rescind a ordinance and make a change in that ordinance and give it a new number, I guess. There's been some question in the past that we need to have some kind of a public hearing and notice time and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if that's correct or not, or if there's a threshold that we have to meet. I just want to make sure we get it right if there's some technicality hanging up there. That's all.
When you held a public hearing on the CPACER,
yes,
and that was not required. It was a choice the board took just to make sure you get some feedback from the community.
Oh, okay.
And the changes on the ordinance. I mean, you're more than.
I'm not advocating. I just want to get everything right.
At least from my perspective, it's not a requirement for you to hold a public hearing when you change rescind an ordinance and approve another one.
And I don't know if legal jumps in on that or something. I just want to make sure we get it right. That's all. That's the only reason I raised the question. I'm satisfied if you're satisfied.
Okay.
But just
then, yeah, go ahead.
To help Ramiro here, the email that was sent out by Elizabeth did say that this could be done on the consent agenda.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a department item just to make sure the public understand the changes.
Okay, then let's look at what is on the agenda. 3A is a public health item, resolution reclassifying a position.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, Public Health and Social Services Department is requesting to reclassify an existing full-time position from epidemiologist to a senior epidemiologist. The request is due to increase the scope of work in the Disease and Controls Prevention Program. This position will supervise the staff in public health program areas, and the epidemiologist position just doesn't have enough description on the job description to provide those supervisory responsibilities. This particular position will be responsible to oversee disease investigation, surveillance activities, infectious disease prevention projects, programs, and planning and evaluation. This particular proposal has an increase in the budget from $3,721 to $8,899. Total increase of $1,578 or 21%. This is covered by the Sexual Transmitted Disease Program, the tuberculosis federal and state grants, and some public health fees. This is a constant assessment by public health to make sure that we align the vacant positions to the current and changes on the services that we provide to the residents of Thurston County. Any questions?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
Has this has all been through HR?
Right.
And we've had kind of a comparison. I mean, what other jurisdictions? Retention and recruitment is a big issue to me. And I want to make sure that we stay in the market for this type of a position. So all that has been reviewed.
So it's been reviewed by HR, and this is not necessarily a salary adjustment to an existing position. It's a reclassification of existing position to a higher classification. And the higher classification has a different salary. So this is not necessarily related to a comparison to other jurisdictions. It's just reclassifying, and again, an existing position to a higher position that we have in the county.
Okay. Just wondering if we're covering all our bases. Thank you.
Commissioner Mejia, anything?
No, sir.
Okay, me neither. Let's go on to 3B, which is just the auditor list, voucher list, and we'll have a week to look at that. Department items 4A is under Community Planning and Economic Development, subrecipient agreement for riparian restoration, the Allen Chambers ditch.
Yeah, so Commissioner, allow me to give you a little bit of a higher description of these three items, which the higher description applies to all the three items that you may be considering next week. Thurston County was awarded a National Estuary Program, NEP, Stormwater Strategic Initiative Grant in the amount of $552,500 in funding through the state partners on the Department of Ecology. This grant funds is to improve the water quality in Thurston County streams through an incentive program that centralizes information for landowners, motivates voluntary restoration of riparian areas and private land. The key elements of this program is funding of riparian restoration pilot projects designed to mitigate impacts of stormwater and non-point source of pollution, and protect and restores the habitat for native species. So that context of that description applies to items 4A, 4B, and 4C. 4B specifically is related to having a subrecipient agreement with Thurston Conservation District to complete the repair and restoration of 100 feet of buffer along 1,350 feet of Chambers ditch for a total of 3 acres with chamber ditch of repair and restoration. This cost of this particular agreement is $52,284. And the period of this particular contract goes from July 1st, 2021 through August 30th, 2022. And Chris Chapeau is here to answer any questions related to item 4A.
Questions for Chris, Commissioner Mejia,
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, and I don't know that it's for Chris. So we're going to spend $52,000 out of the $552,000 grant. It looks like, is that right? And then what I'm wondering about, the description of the valid expenditure that the county manager gave, might that grant give us the ability to review that problem over off of Black Lake where they did that study and there was 3 creeks that seemed to be contributing to the water quality issue? Is that something that maybe we could take a look at their issue? Because we've told people we didn't have money in the budget, maybe that they were asked about. And maybe here we might have some money to look into that situation. I just asked the question. Don't know what's been earmarked or if it is earmarked. So would anybody know the answer to that?
Chris, will you provide a perspective in terms of the requirements of the grant?
Sure. I would need a little bit more information about the issues in the area that Commissioner Edwards described. There is the potential, but we do run the risk of timeframes. There are a lot of strings attached to this funding, and there are a lot of things that we have had to pre-plan in order to make sure that we've been able to put the funding down on the ground, including cultural resources reviews, getting site plans developed, and property owner agreements in place. And this particular grant does run out as of September of 2022, which means that we would be a bit limited in our planting timeframe and planning timeframe. But with that said, if someone could get me a little bit more information, I can look into it and see what we could do with this particular funding for this project.
Hey, Chris, could you reach out to Art Starry?
Yep.
Yeah, citizens of the Black Lake submitted a report where they highlighted 3 streams. They have been affected on water quality, particularly related to fecal coliform. And, you know, I think it's some statements that perhaps is related to septic systems within the area. But Art will give you all the rest of the information, and maybe next week we can circle back to see if this is an opportunity to address that issue.
Sure can.
Would that work?
Yeah, that'd be fine. That'd be fine. I'm just looking.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask about, it's kind of follow up to Commissioner Edwards. Are these, I mean, this is, these 3 projects make up what, 175,000? And out of 552, has the rest already been spent, or are you still looking for projects to expend the additional grant money?
Right. So we are still looking for some projects. A portion of that 552,000, about $200,000 of that are for pilot projects. The rest of the funding actually went towards creating a one-stop information shop for the constituents of Thurston County to find information about restoration in streams, as well as who they can partner with or receive technical assistance from. We've also done a number of outreach sessions with the public to understand any hurdles or misunderstandings from the public about why they would or wouldn't want to participate in a type of restoration grant funding or project that the county, or program, excuse me, that the county might run or partner with to run. So it's a bit bigger project than just individual pilot projects on the ground, but this is kind of the culmination of all of that work.
But if the Black Lake issue turned out to meet the parameters, there is some resources that maybe could go that way.
That we have about $80,000 remaining in this particular task line if they met the parameters.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to know. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, so that pretty much covers 4A, B, and C, right? We can move on to.
Just for the benefit of the public, 4B, if I may, is related the same, but it's related to a specific location of 1,400 feet on the Deschutes River. And that's just about 3.1 acres of riparian area restoration. And 4B includes a cost of $76,505. Item 4C is specifically related to 650 feet of McLean Creek, 290 feet of unnamed tributary also that feeds the McLean Creek, and also it's a wetland related type of connection. And this will be including a 3.1 acres of riparian restoration. And item 4C has a cost of $49,964.
Okay, any other questions before we move on?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right, there we go. It's 4A, B, and C. The rest of our items are public works, and we'll look at 5A, resolution for 2021 Thurston County Solid Waste Management Plan. Karen
Yeah.
Weiss from Public Works Senior Management Analyst is here.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is many different steps related to the solid waste management plan. Last week, you approved in local agreements within the different jurisdictions here in Thurston County, which is related to the solid waste management plan and some of the requirements within. The Washington state law, specifically RCW 78.205, requires local governments to maintain a current solid waste management plan. This particular plan has been coordinated extensively within the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. That provides, and this committee is composed of members of the industry as well as representatives from the jurisdictions. And there has been a long process to get us to this point. A lot of feedback from the jurisdiction as well as from the industry, and at this point is get to the I believe the final step for you to consider approving the solid waste management plan, which is going to be guiding the county in participants related to the haulers. They provide curbside collection and processing all the municipal solid waste and recycled materials here in Thurston County. Karen?
Thank you, Romero. I think you summed it up just perfectly. So, we've been working on this for the better part of a year and a half, 2 years, and this is nearing the finish line. The board's taken a lot of actions already associated with the solid waste management plan and some of the objectives and recommendations and goals that are a part of that. For example, flow control and the RFP. So we've been working towards this for a long time. This is kind of step 6 of the 7 steps. After contingent on board approval of this will go to the Department of Ecology for final approval. And then this will provide the roadmap or the framework for our solid waste division and the jurisdictions in the county to move forward with solid waste management over the next 6 years plus.
I would add maybe for Commissioner Mejia's benefit that when I got on the board, there was a draft, but there was significant concern from our partners on SWAC about input and updating things. And so they wanted to kind of go through some of the pieces again, and the board gave them that latitude, and they came back with a new draft. And I've heard almost nothing about it here in the last year. So no news is good news sometimes. And I'm pretty confident that they were able to address their concerns, but with the board giving them that chance to work through that plan. So any questions for Karen from the board?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Karen, you made mention that it'll be submitted to Ecology, but it's after we've signed off on it, I guess. But hasn't Ecology been involved with us all the way along here, kind of, well, this will work, but this won't, and that type of thing. So we should be pretty well lined up, right?
Absolutely. Good point, Commissioner Edwards. So Ecology actually was a participant in the process of putting this together with us. They were part of our meetings and retreats to work on the solid waste management plan development. And then it has gone to Ecology in the fall of 2020. It went to Ecology, who commented on the draft plan and provided us comments back. And I will tell you that from our consultant's perspective, we had some of the fewest comments that she'd ever seen from Ecology on a draft plan. And so we've addressed those comments in the revision that went back to the SWAC and to the cities. And so that is the plan you see in front of you. And so, yes, it goes to Ecology as a final formality, but we don't expect any other concerns or comments on our plan.
Okay, and having sat on that SWAC committee one point. And now my seatmate, Commissioner Mejia, is our representative on that. I guess I'd defer to her to, with a head nod one way or the other, or if she's satisfied, I'm satisfied.
Yes, and so from what I remember, Karen, wasn't this approved, like, I think it was my second meeting in SWAC where this was discussed. And the consensus was, everyone was satisfied with it, so, and from what I read, I didn't see any red flags come from it, so I'm pretty satisfied with it.
I forgot that you're on SWAC, Commissioner Mejia. I apologize.
No worries.
Explaining something you already knew. One question I had is about the municipal. So the municipal governments have a seat on SWAC, but do they also have to, the councils have to approve this plan, or is it just their participation through SWAC?
Good question. So when we did the outreach to the cities, the solid waste management plan was a part of that. We made presentations at for each of the cities in the town of Bucota on the solid waste management plan in combination with the flow control aspect. And so they have reviewed and seen this plan, and they have adopted it by virtue of the ILAs that that you just approved for each of the cities. And those ILAs are actually incorporated into the solid waste management plan when they go to Ecology with our final submission.
Okay, and we keep saying SWAC, which stands for the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and it has particularized seats for the municipalities and specified stakeholders. So anyway, okay, are we good on that topic then? Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Next public works item is 5B, PSC Facility Relocation Agreement, 61318.
Commissioners, items 5B and 5C are related to the improvements on Young Highway and Meridian Road intersection. So item 5B is, let me give you a little bit perspective in terms of, and we just had a discussion on the franchise agreements. In the franchise agreements, what it does is allows any type of utility to use the county's right of way. And by using the county's right of way, in the event the county needs to do some road improvements in some instances, those utilities are required to move those facilities they are using the right of way to eliminate the conflicts that we may have by those road improvements. That is the franchise agreement. But also, when we do some improvements, such in this case, it requires moving into private property. They will have purchased the private property. Some utilities have private easements. And with those private easements, and they have facilities within those private easements, the franchise agreement does not apply because that's in private property. We purchase up to the fact, and they have the underlying ownership of those easements and those facilities. As a result, when we try to eliminate the conflicts of those utilities related to our road construction, we need to compensate for the relocation of those improvements. That is the case in this particular item. There is a couple of power poles on the ownership of Puget Sound Energy. They needs to be relocated in order for us to go with improvements of Young Highway in Meridian, which is going to be building a runabout. So the cost of this particular relocation is just about $292,006, and that is included in the overall project cost that we will be addressing here in item 5C. That's the larger context of this item, and Brian is here to answer any questions or provide additional perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Romero. You explained it very well. Yeah, so this pole is right in the corner of the intersection. It's a transmission line. It's about 90 feet tall, and so they're going to be relocating about 50 feet away. And as part of moving it, they have to adjust multiple other poles because everything ties into it right in the corner. And so that's why we're seeing this cost being approximately $292,000. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Commissioner Mejia?
No questions.
No, sir.
Did I miss a number? You said 292. Where's that number coming from?
So their estimate was 243,000, and then they in their contract they can go 20% higher, so they don't have to stop work while they're out there. So that 20% brought it up to approximately $292,006.85.
So do we need to reword this motion, Ramiro?
Uh,
I think it's
I think you have the contingency of 10%. Will that cover it, Brian? The
You
200.
said 20% in the contract, so.
well, that 292,000 includes the 20% PSEs authorized to go up, and then we have another 10% to just in case that Jennifer can authorize without going back to the board.
So Brian, the question from the board is, do we need to change in the motion the number to 243,339 to the 292,000 that is included on the description?
Because just to clarify, it looks like the way I'm reading this, we're only authorizing 10% more than the 243. If you want 10% more than 290 something else, then we better reword it.
The agenda item I have says $292,006.85.
So I just got a word from Amy. The item has been updated with the new number. So good pick, commissioners. The new number is 292.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm looking at an agenda and it says 243 plus 10%, and that's not going to cover.
Amy, the clerk of the board just gave me a heads up. That item has been updated as of this morning, so you have an older agenda. So next week you will see the new number.
Okay. What about 4C then? You said they're related?
Yeah, so the 4C is related.
Or 5C, I should say, 5C.
5C is for you to consider awarding the contract for the improvements of Meridian Road and Young Highway. On June 8th, 2021, the department received 4 bids to do the road construction on this intersection. This intersection, for the most part, is a T intersection, and they have been observing a lot high accidents. The traffic is pretty heavy. I have traveled that intersection quite often. So the improvements include building a roundabout, which is going to be the most efficient way to address this intersection. The low responsible bidder was Pacific Civil and Infrastructure of Sumner, Washington, and with a bid of $2,009,138. The department is for you to consider approving the low bid with an aggregate of 10% for a total of $2,210,051. The money, where it's coming from to fund this project, we have received a grant of $1,300,000 from the federal government, and the remainder will be covered by the traffic impact fees as well as the road fund. And again, Brian is here to answer any questions related to this proposal.
I have nothing more to add to Ramiro's comments.
Commissioner Mejia?
No questions, no follow-up questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, apparently the numbers aren't going to change on this portion. Is that right?
No.
Okay. Good.
Okay, thank you, Brian. We'll go to 5D, a contract award for the Deschutes Falls Park Walkway and Viewing Platform Project.
Yeah, Commissioner, July 29, 2021, the department received 6 bids to construct a viewing area and walkway on the Deschutes Falls Park. The low responsible bidder was Quick Brothers Incorporated of Aberdeen, Washington, with a low bid of $440,634.60. The department is requesting for you to consider awarding the contract to the Quick Brothers, and with an additional 10% contingency, which that will bring to an aggregate of $484,698. The funding source in which these improvements will be funded is both through the park impact fees as well as the real estate excise tax 2 funds. And both are included on the current budget. I think we have Kevin here from Public Works to answer any questions.
Questions for Kevin?
No.
No, me either. I think we've talked about this several times.
Thank you. Off the hook, Kevin. We're good. Thank you for your time this morning. Next is right-of-way vacation in the plat of Boston Harbor.
Yeah, Commissioners, for your considerations, on May 25th, 2021, the hearing examiners held a virtual public hearing to consider the vacation of a 20-foot segment of right-of-way located on 76th Avenue, 76th Way Northeast in Olympia. I have attached for you a copy of the map, and that gives you a perspective of the small rectangular area that is for consideration for the vacation. This particular portion is unopened right-of-way, which was dedicated to Thurston County and the plat of Boston Harbor, which was recorded in the auditor's office in October 24, 1907. So it's a little bit old. It has remained unopened, doesn't have any particular access or public need, public use, and the hearing examiner has recommended the vacation with conditions. They have laid out a few conditions, including that the applicant shall compensate the county for this transaction, which is under code, Thurston County Code 13.36.3.030. And Craig, but we don't have Craig here, but we have the Public Works staff to cover this item. If you have any questions.
Kelly, are you the person on Craig's stead here this morning?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Questions for Kelly regarding this proposed?
I do.
Go ahead.
Was this a matter that was up for public, for in front of the hearing examiner on August 10th?
Let me check the date on that. No, that was May 25th,
Okay.
2021 was the hearing examiner date.
So 1 second, I have some constituents that wrote me in with concerns about kind of a right of way, and I'm trying to see if it's the same one, because if not, I would like to move this so I can go over there, but give me 1 second as I try to find out.
Yeah, let's go. I'll circle back to you. Commissioner Edwards, any questions?
I don't know who's gonna have the answer to this, but this looks like it attaches, or it's potentially going to attach, if sold, to a waterfront lot, is that right?
Yes, the lot is a waterfront lot, but the area of right-of-way being vacated does not extend to the water.
And the end of the roadway does not extend to the water either, is that right?
No, the end of the actually constructed road, no, does not. It falls short of where this right-of-way vacation is. The road falls quite a bit short of that. Then the unopened right-of-way continues on and is essentially, at this point, serving as the applicant's front lawn. And that's the area they're wishing to vacate.
I guess what I'm wondering about, is there a public access at the end of that open right-of-way of 79th Way Northeast? It looks like it is.
There's not a road that extends to the water, no.
I guess I'm wondering.
But the public could, the public, it will still be available for public access. there is still 40 plus feet of right of way available for public access in the future if the county desired to extend that road.
So if we wanted to make a public access park,
Mhm.
then we would be able to, I guess, get down to the beach area, it looks like.
Yes.
I don't understand the layout there exactly. And I'm wondering now, will the treasurer then be putting this up for bid, or it's only worth something to this particular property owner? Is that it?
No. The right-of-way vacations within plats by operation of law will attach to anything that is from the center line to either direction attached to those adjacent property owners.
Okay.
And I think you bring in a good question, Commissioner.
Mhm.
It's fundamental difference between tax title and vacation process. The tax title is the treasurer is the one who takes in custody those delinquent properties until we can surplus or we can have private negotiations. Right away is different. The only way that we can vacate, we can dispose of those pieces of right away is through a vacation process, which is this process. And within that context, we need to ensure that that particular piece of right away has never been opened and maintained. Because if we have opened and maintained the piece of right away, we cannot vacate because it's for public use. In this case, the hearing examiner has determined it has not been opened and the public has not used it in general context. So as stated, by law, it has to go to the underlying adjacent property owner, the vacation. Cannot be go to a third party.
Okay, so the area in dark red is that questionable property that's gonna, by state law, go to the adjoining property.
Yeah, by petition.
Pardon?
By petition by the property owners.
Yeah, and then they're gonna cover all the costs of whatever, surveying and such, so
And
it won't cost taxpayers anything. That's
No,
right.
No.
and they have to compensate the county for that. There is a transaction they need to pay. It also, what it does is extend the footprint of their lot, which is their property taxes will go higher. as well.
Right, that's what I'm thinking, that their property tax on that lot will go up
Yeah.
a
So
little
that's-
bit
Yeah, a little.
because of their square footage or whatever. So this will be an overall benefit to the taxpayers in the end.
Absolutely a point.
And I am curious, how come we didn't hear anything about a cost or what, we don't know yet or something? Is that what it is?
Kelly, can you explain what the compensation is outside line on the Thurston County Code?
Certainly. According to 1336.030, the applicants are obligated to get an appraisal of that area being vacated by a certified Washington State general real estate appraiser, and they will pay. Our office then reviews that appraisal to make sure that it meets all of our criteria, and the applicant then pays 100% of that fair market value.
And I guess one final question is, that lot that is going to be acquiring that little parcel, that's serviced by the Boston Harbor Sewer and Water System? Is that true?
Yes.
So there won't be any other like septic activity or anything like that? Okay, or from a water quality perspective, it should be. Okay, that's all.
We're in the clear with this one, yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
How does this get to the hearing examiner? I mean, was this a petition specifically to address this issue, or were they dealing with something else and this is an order of the hearing examiner that kind of ancillary to it, another proceeding?
My understanding is the applicant's roof line, it was out of compliance. They were not meeting setbacks. And so this was a way for them to come into compliance with setbacks, with building setbacks.
There was
So-
a petition by the property.
Yeah, petition by the property owner.
So by us taking this action, we're helping them get into compliance and addressing their particular issue.
Correct.
Okay, well, I think that's a relevant detail. Okay, then there's nothing further. We've got I think a similar thing with 5F.
Yeah,
right?
similar, and this is related to the smaller pieces of unopened right-of-way. Again, the hearing examiners on May 11, 2021 held a public hearing for this vacation request, which is located along Highway 12 in Rochester. This particular property was deeded to the county as part of the railroad addition plat in Rochester again, and it was recorded on June 22, 1891. That's a little bit before my time.
Yeah, mine too.
So again, the hearing examiners recommended for you to consider a vacation of this particular pieces, and I have attached a map for your consideration. The hatch area is what gives you information as to what the areas that will be vacated, again, to the underlying property owners. And also the hearing examiners provided some conditions, which includes, as Kelly stated, compensation to the county related to this particular vacation.
Are these like alleys or what?
Yeah, at some point they were supposed to be, they never materialized. My assumption is the homes and the development has, in a way, overtaken this area, and it really is not open. There's never going to be planned for a construction of any roads in there, and it just makes sense to vacate to the underlying property owners.
Questions from Commissioner Mejia?
No questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, I'm good, thank you.
This is an unusual, I mean, I've never seen one that kind of had this type of a shape or whatever you want to say, configuration for a road.
There are multiple rights of way. They're little segments. It's why they look like, one of them looks kind of like an H shape. Yeah, that is essentially a road, an alley, and another alley that runs between them.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What's on these parcels right now?
Let me find my exhibit here. The area that is, I think you have it labeled as areas A and B, one of them has a road that is a private road called Foster Street. It's not a county road. It's just essentially a private driveway that they named Foster Street. That is kind of a road. It only is in that right-of-way area for a brief time, and then it meanders over across private property and then back to a parcel. The cross alley is just lawn area. And then the other north-south running one, the smaller one to the east, has a part of a driveway in it, and then a fenced and lawn area. And then farther down, the one that's the farthest to the east, that is part of their lumber yard.
So originally,
it's being used by people.
I'm just trying to go back to like what the intent was originally. If it was didn't make sense originally, or it did make sense then, but something's changed now. Was originally these would be little cul-de-sacs with houses, or?
Probably not cul-de-sacs, but they would have been regular roads with alleys that cross between the roads, for garbage service or whatever, typically as alleys have been used in other areas.
Is yellow a road? Like, let's just look at area D, for example. I want to make sure I understand what I'm looking at. The green hatched area is a right of way. It connects to a yellow block area. Is that road?
The yellow area is a previously vacated road. That was a previously vacated alley. Everything that's in yellow on that exhibit has been vacated already. And the green areas are currently open, unopened roads, but current right of way.
But if the other connector has been vacated, then there's nothing you could do with that other than make it a cul-de-sac or something.
That would be correct if we were going to do that. The alleys are only 15 feet wide. So you really wouldn't be putting a road into that.
Okay. And I mean, all this stuff, it says Stella Jones Corporation. It sounds like it's undeveloped land because it's all owned by a corporation. Is that true, or is it?
It's a log yard.
Oh,
It's a log yard.
This whole thing is a log yard?
Pretty much.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No, yeah, I thought it was kind of like an industrial zone, but it's interesting that it's.
And I think you Commissioner, you bring a good point. Back in 1891, when which this was dedicated to the county, they used, perhaps they had an idea as to what they could be used on a 15 feet wide alley. That was before vehicles. Since things have changed. So that was a good point.
It allowed the 6-foot buggy to be driven.
Okay, well then, I guess that finishes up the public works items.
Thank you.
We've got, thank you, Kelly. We have our standing items for the commissioners and county manager. And at 3 p.m. is a public hearing related to vehicular weight restrictions.
Yeah, Commissioners, you will hear a public testimony related to two particular items within the two bridges. Public Works staff gave you a briefing a couple months ago. The FHWA, which is the Federal Highway Administration, changed the requirements as to how we evaluate bridges using a different type of vehicle. The result of that analysis put us in the position to put weight restrictions on the Yelm Highway Bridge, and that's been part of the public testimony. Also, the second item this public testimony will be receiving is for you to consider lifting the weight restrictions on the Ritter Road Bridge, since we have already replaced that bridge in the last couple of years. So it's two actions with the same motion leading to the public hearing. Matt, would you like to add anything else on this?
Nope, you summarized it very well.
Questions from the board at this point?
Yes, I'd just like to run this by Matt or clarify. It's my understanding, because we've had this on our agenda before, that yes, they're gonna have to put some weight restriction on that bridge just out of Yelm, but it's very minor adjustment. It is probably not gonna affect routine traffic of any type. Is that right, Matt?
You're absolutely right. And just to confirm that, since we did the briefing with the board several months ago, we've actually reached out to a lot of companies, i.e. like paving companies or concrete companies that we anticipated they might run into some issues, but we've received no negative feedback to this point.
Okay, thank you.
Have you received any comments so far, Matt?
None.
Okay.
We tried really hard though.
To get comments?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see who comes to testify on Tuesday or next Tuesday. So that will bring to a close the agenda for August 24th. 10:26, we'll take our recess here this morning and reconvene with item 5 at, let's say, 10:38. Take 12 minutes.
Thank you.
mask is really bothering me this morning. It's like a twitch in my nose.
What?
My mask. I need to change it out. It's bothering me. It's like I feel like twitch in my nose.
You know, this whole mask thing kind of, I heard something from CDC, somebody was, it was all on this COVID thing. And it was saying something about if you can smell cigarette smoke through your
I heard the
mask,
same.
it's really not
Effective.
it's not effective. And I'm thinking, well, what the heck? I think I tried that early on with the M95 type mask. Now, maybe it was a counterfeit, so.
Romero. What? The sound's still on.
You ready?
Go ahead. We're just making sure that we turn it on. You're live.
Okay, here we go. Back in session for the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session for Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. It's 10:41 a.m. We're picking up this morning's agenda with item 5, proclamations and awards. And I presume clerk of the board is in the boardroom.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Amy.
Good morning, Amy Davis, clerk of the board. The draft proclamation for National Preparedness Month was provided by Emergency Services and is attached. I will have the 4 drafts of the September proclamations to you next Tuesday, so you can take a look and decide which to move forward with, or if you'd like to revise that schedule.
Which, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last piece of what you said.
In September, we have 4 proclamations, 1 each week. And so last week it was mentioned that perhaps we could take a look and see if you'd like to move forward with all or some or not. Yeah.
So we'll take that up next week.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Any questions from the board on the National Preparedness Month?
No, sir.
I don't think so. The only question maybe the chair brought it up, what was Constitution Day or something?
Amy just said we're going to take that up next Tuesday.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, great. Then let's go to advisory boards and commissions.
Included in your packet is an application from David Hartley for the Storm and Surface Water Advisory Board. His application was reviewed by SWAB, and he attended their July 15th meeting where he expressed his interest and provided background to the board, and the board reviewed his application. SWAB recommends the appointment of Mr. Hartley to the vacant District 1 seat. So this is here for your review, and we can include this on the agenda of the 24th or circle back next week.
This individual, according to the application, is also a member of the Boston Harbor Utility Advisory Committee. Just bring that to the board's attention. Okay, what's the pleasure of the board on Mr. Hartley?
The Storm Water Advisory Committee said yay, right?
Yeah, recommended. Yeah.
I'm good.
Thumb up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 thumbs up on that? Okay,
I will include this on next week's agenda.
perfect. Very impressive resume. Okay, next is PIO check-in.
Unfortunately, our PIO had to go home, so we don't have a PIO update this morning.
Okay. We'll catch up next week on PIO activities. Briefing, public hearing decision pending, item 8.
Nothing is pending at this time, Commissioner.
Okay.
Oh, we're on a roll this morning.
Item 9, Commissioner items. Number 1 is the Veterans Fund 2020 and 2021 program updates.
Yeah, Commissioners, this is in response to the public testimony that we received last Tuesday related to the Veterans Fund. So, and I have Mark Moffat, he is the program manager of the Veterans Fund, to come to the board and provide a perspective, not necessarily addressing the cause, but I think provide a perspective related to the Veterans Fund 2020, 2021, as well as 2022. Attached in your packet is a PowerPoint. Mark is going to go through this this morning. Do you want to share your screen, Mark? Good morning.
Good morning. Yes. Give me a second. There it is. All right. Okay, good morning, Commissioners. I'm Mark Moffat, the Program Manager for the Veterans Assistance Program. I wanted to start off with a couple definitions just to give you an idea of what the advisory, or excuse me, the assistance program is about. So it's established by the RCW 7308-005. And so the purpose of it is to address needs of local indigent veterans and their families. And it's mandatory for each county to have an assistance program and to collect funds no less than 1 1/8 cent per $1,000 of property tax. So indigent, in Thurston County, at least for the Veterans Assistance Program, we define indigent at receiving up to 200% of the federal poverty income guidelines. We changed this with the county commissioners in agreement from 150 to 200%, because we did see a gap in the people that were coming in and needing assistance, but making just a little bit more than necessary or required. So what that looks like is for a couple prior with 150%, they couldn't make more than about $26,000. Now they can make up to $34,000 and still qualify for this program. The other definition based on RCW is what is a veteran. So it's kind of a convoluted description, but it's based on really three things: the characterization of discharge, and there's 5 different types of discharge from the military. We can help out based as defined in RCW with honorable and general under honorable conditions. And then time in service, they have to have at least 180 days in service. And that can be waived depending on if there was a medical discharge that happened, and then completion of initial enlistment. And there's waivers for all of these, but these are general guidelines. You also have an advisory board, a Veterans Advisory Board, and what their job is to inform you on the needs of indigent veterans in our community and to propose programs that will benefit them. And over the last 2 years, we had 2 overhauls to our internal policy on how we implement the assistance program. Both of these changes were approved by the county commissioners at that time. In 2019, we made several changes. We increased the income level from 150 to 200% of federal poverty, as I just discussed. We deducted court order payments from that income calculation, so they can make more if a court ordered them to pay certain fees. We could take that off of their income so that more people would be eligible. We increased the available assistance from $500. So for a long time, the minimum or the maximum that we could give a single person was $500. We increased that to $1,000. And for a family, it was $1,000, and we increased it to $2,000 in 2019. We also allow for motel stays, depending on if the shelters are full. We've also added septic maintenance, vehicle repair, and some occupational items like licensing and clothing to the policy to fill in some of the gaps, because what we saw, there were people coming in for this type of assistance, but we, based on our policy, we weren't able to do that. But in 2019, we were able to make those changes. And then last year, we made more changes based on COVID. It's an emergency amendment that was approved by the board last year, and that increased the assistance from the cap of $2,000 for a family, and now we can go up to $3,000. We also increased the frequency of access. For the past about 7 years, there was a cap of 2 times in a veteran's lifetime that they could use this fund, and now that's been waived. So if they've used it more than 2 times, they can also come back. And then we've also added internet service. There was a lot of working from home. There's still a lot of working from home, and so internet is a necessity for many folks today. So we've added that to the service that we can provide. So this is probably what you're really wanting to look at. So trends. So I've included 2019, 2020, this year, and then projected for next year. So in 2019, we saw a lot more than we did last year, and definitely more than we've seen this year for assistance. So I've only included the top 4 things that we give direct assistance for. So blue is the housing, orange utilities, the gray is shelter, and the yellow is for burial. Shelter, I'll talk a little bit about shelter now. Shelter, we do have contract. We've had contract for over 10 years now with various shelters in the community to offer homeless veterans assistance to make sure that they have a bed if they come in. And we only pay per bed night for qualified veterans. So they still have to meet the qualifications of the assistance fund to get credit for this. So in 2019, we helped about, I think it was 43 veterans get into shelters for that year. And as you see, it's dropped off since COVID hit, it's dropped off considerably, just like the rest of our funds or direct service that we offer. I could blanket this and just say COVID, but if you dig a little deeper for the reasonings behind this, we've talked internally with my program specialist, Ashley Strauss, and also with some of the members of the advisory board. And some of the things that, it's all conjecture at this point. But what we think is we did have some reduced hours last year due to COVID, but we continued operations through internet and email and phone. So we still helped over, I think, 26 veterans last year. This year we've helped 13, but we're working on 8 currently, and our last quarter is typically the quarter that we help the most veterans. So we still have 3-4 months left of this year. 2 other things that we're citing: the eviction moratorium. We believe that may have some impact on who we're helping right now. And if you see 2022, what I'm projecting for the budget is to increase what we're allocating because we do anticipate seeing more people come in once that moratorium is lifted. And then also the stimulus checks that have been occurring for the last year plus, that may have had some impact on people coming in. And then there's also other entities that are helping out with assistance. PSE, for instance, usually we get a lot of people coming in for utilities. PSE is helping them directly as well. Any questions on this at the moment?
I'm going to have a couple questions, but I think we can talk about.
So I do have a question at this point, Mark. So the services that we provide is based upon request by those individuals who are seeking assistance, correct?
Correct.
So from your perspective, there is not a backlog, or there is not a queue waiting for veterans to be served?
No, there isn't. Right now, we're working on 8 veteran cases, but that's not really a backlog. There's a lot of documentation that we need. We need, if we're paying rent, we need a vendor information form from the landlord to be able to pay them directly, because all of the funds go directly to a business. So either PSE or to the landlord. It doesn't go directly to the veteran.
So in other words, every single application that we have received, we have been able to serve.
That's not correct. Sometimes we do have to turn away because
because they're not qualified. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm going to talk about that too in just a moment.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, and so here's the bottom line with direct assistance. So in 2019, we were able to help with those top 4 about $98,000. Last year it dropped to 39, and this year we're at about 24. I do believe we're going to exceed what we did last year. Again, we do have our biggest quarter coming up. Homeless shelters, yeah. Was there a question? Okay. So homeless shelters, each year we do a request for proposal in our community to have shelters offer, I wouldn't say priority, but to offer a bed when a veteran comes in. Again, we only pay for nights that are stayed. Our current contract is with Catholic Community Services, and we pay $45 a night for a veteran. So far this year, I believe we've helped about 13 veterans get into shelters. And again, they must meet the same criteria as prescribed in the RCW. And current changes, what we just had an advisory board meeting last week, and we talked about some changes that we can do. We're advertising on social media. We're going to do a Thurston Talks to get the word out. We're not sure if it's just marketing that we need to do, but we're gonna push on that. There are several ideas from the board that they're considering, some pilot programs. I've also organized a Veteran Advisory Board subcommittee to look into other solutions. And then again, the budget increase for the next 2 years in anticipation of some changes. And I was going to talk about, Romero, you had asked about if we serve everybody, and we can't serve everybody. In 2020, we turned away 7 people, and the reasoning for those, there were 2 that were over income, so they were making above the 200% of the federal poverty income. There were 2 people that were out of county. We only serve Thurston County residents. And then we talked about earlier about discharge status. We had 1 that we had to turn away because of a bad conduct discharge. 1 and this is 2020. So 1 used a fund greater than 2 times. So we've changed that this year, but in 2020 we weren't able to assist. And then 1 wanted a plane ticket somewhere. I'm not sure where, but we don't offer plane tickets as part of our services. This year we've only turned away 2 people. And 1 was over income, and the other one was for buying a house, and we don't offer down payments for homes. Does that answer your question, Romero?
Yes, and maybe an additional question, but the board has the option to increase the income eligibility?
Yes, absolutely. So the RCW are the guidelines, but there is a provision in the RCW that the county commissioners can make changes. So you can make changes even to the characterization of discharge if you so see fit.
Thank you.
I believe this is my last slide. Yes.
Can you stop sharing your screen, Mark?
I'm trying to get other.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, is it time for the board to ask questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, Commissioner Mejia.
So for advertising, you stated that you're advertising on social media, Thurston Talks. I mean, what have we done before? Have we connected with the VFWs? What's the current plan that we use?
So we do connect with the VFW, American Legion. We have members of at least 3 of the organization, the veteran service organizations, on our advisory board. And then we also we have a presence at the the Lacey Veterans Service Hub. So we get many veterans coming through there that we're able to assist as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Edwards.
Yes, sir. Mark, on your verification, whether someone is eligible or not, do you use that DD 214? Is that what you use, or do you have an access that you can? I can imagine that a homeless person, for an example, might lose their DD 214. Do you have a way around that you can access Department of Defense records? Or?
We do use the DD 214, and we do have some veterans that don't carry it with them, and if they're homeless, they do have that is a challenge. But the Washington Department of Veterans Affairs helps us obtain that. They can look it up pretty quickly if they were discharged within the last 20-ish years. Anything above that, it takes a little bit longer to get. If they're looking for shelter assistance, the shelter will not turn them away. And so while we're working on that DD 214, they still will obtain housing.
Okay, then there was some mention, a citizen brought in something about, I'm gonna guess around $47,000. That number just rings a bell with me. That's what we expended on veterans, which was 10% of the fund or something. Do you know anything about that?
I'm not sure which year that was. So from my slide, in 2019, we expended about $98,000 in those top 4 categories. Last year is about $39,000. Again, it did drop off considerably last year, and then this year, so far, we're below that as well.
Did you actually see the material that was submitted to us by a citizen that was taken out of our own budget material? Did you see that by any chance? I think it came in a couple of weeks ago.
I saw the one out of I think Kitsap County, and I think it was to draw a comparison on what they offer for services compared to what we do. Is that the one you're referring to?
I guess not. I don't have it in front of me right now myself. But I was wondering if we couldn't make that available to you. It was something that was submitted to us. So I'd like to pass that on to you, and maybe you could even pass on that information to the Veterans Committee and let them review it and see what they think about it, and see if they can might want to make adjustments, or they might make comments that, no, this isn't quite right. There's a little change here, or whatever. But apparently it came out of our own budget material, and that's kind of what I wanted to do the verification on. It seemed like we were helping them by about 10% of what we brought in on budgeted material. And anytime that you have a program and only 10% goes to the beneficiary, that makes me wonder if we're doing the right thing or not. So that's all. I'd like to get some verification and maybe have that Veterans Committee take a look at that if you could.
Yes, sir. I did receive a few different documents, and the one that's just sticking in my head is the one from Kitsap as a comparison. I did share that with the chair at the time, and to discuss that with the advisory board to see if there are some services that we can add. We did have a change in our leadership in July. Our chair, he termed out, so our new chair for the advisory board is Bill Powell, and he's meeting, I believe, next week with his advisory board to discuss this further.
Okay, could you pass that information on? I guess you can get it from the county manager, what was submitted to us. But,
you bet.
okay, and just see what the group has to say about it. Thank you.
So Mark, the slide says that the VAB subcommittee has been organized. Is the VAB, is that forthcoming, or is that something that's already been done?
They've already met. I think their first meeting was in June. I asked them at the second quarter advisory board to form this. And so it was formed under the former chair, Smitty, and they met, I believe they met once. And then they're going to meet again on the 25th of this month.
The reason I ask is because one of the Veterans Advisory Board members reached out to me on Friday with an idea, and he said he hadn't brought it to the advisory board because it was kind of something that just came to him, after the previous meeting, and he was going to bring it to them to chew on. But maybe it's more appropriate to go to that subcommittee. I don't know why if there's a subcommittee, I'm just wondering why it was coming to me versus through that subcommittee, and I don't want to get ahead. The board doesn't necessarily need to get ahead of that, but I can certainly share this idea with you or with the subcommittee or whatever. I want to be responsive to that Veterans Advisory Board member that brought this idea forward. Just to kind of summarize, he was trying to think outside the box about how we would spend down the balance, and the proposal was maybe to rather than trying to increase eligibility and stuff. I mean, the statute does focus on indigent vets, so I think that's important that we reach the most vulnerable and the most in need. But he was saying that we could try a pilot program with guaranteed monthly payments to qualifying vets, and he gives a rationale for that, but basically he says, if you had a pilot program with 50 qualifying vets paying $250 a month for 12 months, you would spend down the balance by $150,000. The county could then measure by survey how the payments reduced poverty and increased opportunity. And then you could have applications come in consistent with that, or you could adjust it. His argument is that it could be more consistent with the Veterans Fund statute, cut down bureaucracy, and make a meaningful impact on vets' lives. Because right now, as you pointed out, some of the examples, I mean, it's like they have to demonstrate a particular need, and we have certain categories, and there's this sort of bureaucratic matching up, plane ticket, no, can't do that. Home down payment, no, can't do that. Oh, well, you need your car fixed. Well, we can verify with the auto shop. I mean, there's a lot of vetting that out. Where if we took the 50 most vulnerable vets in the community, and I don't know, I'm characterizing his proposal. So I guess in light of that idea, which, you know, he's going to bring it to the Veterans Advisory Board. It sounds like a great thing for the subcommittee to think about, if that's what you've got kind of on their plate. I just want to make sure I was responsive to that. Now I've kind of put a bug in the ear of the board and it's something that could be thought of. But anyway, I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, thank you, sir. He sent that email out to all the advisory board members.
Okay, good.
Myself and the program specialist on Friday. And there's been some back and forth comments and how to expand it and some changes. And so, yeah, so that's already going through the motions, but thank you.
Okay, great. Well, that's great. And I think that my only editorial comment, which I just repeat from what I just said, is, you know, I mean, Ramiro was saying, well, can we expand eligibility? And it's like, I'm not sure that's the right direction. I mean, if we're already saying 200% of the poverty line we're making eligible, continuing to expand upward into, you know, may not be as reflective of the intent of the statute when it's really focused on indigent veterans. He also mentioned that we could reach out to, since it can be used for burial costs, he had the idea of engaging with local funeral homes to make sure that messaging is getting out there about the eligibility of indigent vets to be able to use that for burial expenses. Because it looked like on your chart, that's been sort of dwindling down.
Yes.
So anyway, those are my 2 cents on that. Hopefully we can get some good ideas from our committee.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, and the local, at least the local funeral homes, they do know about us because they've reached out to us on numerous occasions to see if somebody would qualify.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Anything else from the board, or what do we need? Are we good to go, Ramiro?
Just a comment and maybe a follow-up. What I'm hearing is, last week's testimony from a citizen stated that, $40,000 expenditures in 2020. And Mark's chart agrees with that comment. So it is stated in here. So I don't think there is any discussion whether that comment was accurate or not. It's accurate. It's right on Mark's chart in terms of the 2020 expenditures. So what I think is the next steps is Mark is going to engage, just to globalize the conversation. Mark is going to engage the advisory board to see any opportunities as to how we can expand the programs. And a proposal will come to the board at a later date. Is that correct, Mark?
That's correct. And thank you, Ramiro, because we've been working on this with the advisory board and with the county commissioners to make it more accessible to veterans since 2019. We just haven't found the right, niche, I guess. And so we really want to promote it heavily and maybe have some more programs that are brought to you from the advisory board.
Okay.
I would
Robin?
also just say that 2020 is not the year to make the benchmark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But related to the
But,
citizens' comment, it's on point.
Right.
I don't think it's a disagreement with
Spent
that
less
comment.
money in a lot of our social services.
But in 2019, we spent, I mean, he was saying that we're bringing in 400 something thousand. And so even 98,000 pre-pandemic is not meeting the mark. If we're bringing in 400 something thousand and we're getting only at less than a quarter of that out the door to veterans, that's still not meeting the mark here.
Well, this is
Maybe a
in,
little history may help.
right, and this is in direct assistance. This is not total expenditures from the fund.
Right. But also, I think a little bit of history in this, Commissioner. I think you're probably right, whether it's 98,000 adequate or not. But maybe 5 years ago, the fund was running into the red.
Right.
At some point. So the board took actions to curtail back some of the programs just to make sure that the fund was sustainable in the future. So I think we've seen some of that. Now I think it's time to revisit some of those programs, alternatives, and I believe Mark is going to go through that process with the advisory board and bring recommendations to the board because, so it's a little bit of that history that we're seeing as well as on the end fund balance of the Veterans Fund.
Kind of like the pendulum
Yep.
fact.
It is a little bit, yeah, and
Yeah.
it is, there's room to grow in this program. There absolutely is, but be aware that this amount is not the entire expenditures from the fund.
Okay, what are the other things that the money goes toward?
Money goes for staffing, we pay a portion of the Veterans Hub.
Yep.
What other things, Mark? Those are the other two that come immediately to mind.
Yeah, those are the two big ones. So we do support the Lacey Veterans Hub with rent. So $30,000 each year goes to the Lacey Veterans Hub to help with their operations. We do see a considerable number of indigent veterans that come through there, and we just had the audit earlier this year that confirmed that. So those are the two biggest expenditures above what the direct services are.
Okay. Anything further on this topic? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Romero.
Let's go to 9 sub 2 Capitol Lake Deschutes Estuary EIS comments.
Yeah, commissioners, thank you. This is the latest draft letter. I gave you individually a draft letter last week for you to review this. And this is related to formal comments to the Department of Enterprise Services related to the environmental impact statement, the draft environmental impact statement, DEIS, as it relates to the options as to how we're going to be managing the long-term Capitol Lake Deschutes estuary. You received a briefing related to this DEIS from the staff as well as the consultants. They provide you a little bit of information related to this. So this particular version of the letter includes a couple of edits that I received from the commissioners, and I'm just going to bring this back to have a public conversation. If there's anything else you'd like to add, is there anything you'd like to delete? Here's the time. If I see no additional comments, I will circulate this letter for your signature, and then we'll submit this to the state.
Commissioner Mejia, anything on this letter?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir, not this time.
Okay. I gave some comments, and I guess I would just point out that there will be another opportunity later in the process, starting this fall, as early as this fall, for additional comment more directed toward preferred alternative. This particular juncture in the process, as it's been explained to me, because I'm the county's representative on the executive work group, is about comments on sort of the data and the information that's been compiled as to each of the alternatives. And so that's why these comments, the city of Olympia went well beyond and made some comments that they felt comfortable making. But I would just say that I think it's appropriate to confine our comments at this juncture to the technical compiling of data and information related to the alternatives. And then we will have the opportunity as a board to discuss a more policy-oriented comment at a later point so we can have that discussion when it comes up. So I'm comfortable with sending this letter on at this juncture based on the input we got from our staff. So, Ramiro, it sounded like the board is okay with this.
Yeah, so Robin has a question. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
A minor thing, is Chris Lou still with Enterprise Services? I thought he had, he was no longer there.
But if the director has changed, we'll change it.
Yeah,
Thank you for
you
the heads
should
up.
check that.
Yeah.
He had an exit meeting with me, and I don't remember what his last day was. So he's definitely headed out, but I don't know if he's actually out.
We'll check, but thank you for the info. Yeah, I was not tracking on that. Okay, so we'll update that if it needs to be updated, and then I'll circulate the letter for a final signature.
Sounds good. And we will move on to 9.3, dangerous dog designation. one of our favorite topics.
One of your favorite topics, absolutely. So give me, let me frame the conversation, and then I will provide you with at least my recommendation for you to consider. We received an email from Ms. Janet Anderson on July 20th. This Ms. Janet Anderson made a statement that on Friday, July 16th, about 10:30 in the morning, she had a knock on her door where there was a man and a woman standing there telling her that they were looking for her dog, Miss Anderson's dog, which named Bella, which is a Chihuahua breed. Stating that their dog, the two individuals who showed up at their house, their dog was tied up, and apparently their dog, a pit bull, has attacked Bella, and apparently she was hurt. So Ms. Anderson took the name of those individuals, and this is located on 4329 Ridgewood Lane Northwest here in Olympia. So Ms. Anderson took her dog Bella to the vet, because apparently that's sustained significant injuries. And as a result of taking to the vet, Bella was not able to be saved and was euthanized by the vet on I believe on the same day. Attached with her testimony is a bill from the vet office, which is the Olympia veterinary OBS specialist, which includes the euthanasia items. So also you have in your packet a complaint that Ms. Anderson made to Animal Services on the same incident. And also you had in your packet testimony from other residents within that area stating concerns about the pit bull located again on 4329 Ridgewood Lane Northwest in Olympia, Washington. So this seems to be a very significant issue. Obviously, a dog was killed by the aggression of another. And at this point, the board engaged in your normal conversation, but my recommendation is for you to consider the designation of a dangerous dog of this particular dog.
We don't have the statutes in here that set the code that sets the standard that we're supposed to apply.
Yeah, Katie's with us. She's the one who helped us manage. We can probably produce that to you right now, or maybe we can bring this item for next week to give you enough time. But anyway, so this is the first time introducing this particular matter for your consideration.
I mean, I didn't understand from so I read the summary here, the dog was loose, but on the property owner's property, the owner of the dog's property.
I could probably provide some clarification. Katie Johnson, Thurston County Commissioner's Office. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
From what we understand, what I've understood from the owner of Bella, the Chihuahua who has passed, she was on the property of
Wait, hold on. The
Bella.
property. Whose property?
The property of the pit bull in question. Okay. So the dog did go over there. From what the property owner or the pit bull's owner mentioned, that they got in a scuffle and her dog, Bella, ran back over to Ms. Anderson's property, and that's where she found her. So Ms. Anderson's dog, if you could say, was potentially trespassing on the other dog's property.
And I don't know if that's legally relevant because I don't remember the precise wording of the designations in the code. I need to apply those, but commissioners, go ahead, Commissioner Mejia.
Yeah, so I see here a letter to Animal Services. I mean, what was their response to this? Do we know?
Animal Services does not respond. It was only a, they took note of it. So Animal Services won't respond to this one because they are not within the city limits. And it was a dog on dog attack.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
Was there some question whether the attacking dog, I think the pit bull, was on a leash or not?
There was, in her statement, you can see that they mentioned the dog was off leash, and then later when she approached them after they went to the emergency vet, that the owner of the pit bull stated the dog was actually on leash and playing with another pit bull that was in the yard. So it's a little unclear there.
Were there witnesses that actually saw the attack on the property of the offending dog?
No, the only witnesses that I understand are the owners of the pit bull.
But they said it happened on their yard.
They did write the statement or write her a note. The owner of Bella, sorry, they did write her a note stating.
Okay, and these other folks that have written in, they have concerns because they live in the neighborhood, especially like the one where the mother's 92 years old and goes to the mailbox and that type of thing. So
yeah.
Have they had prior issues of concern with these animals before this dog on dog situation?
There are no prior records with Animal Services. From what I understand, there was another, the mail courier, I believe, has written a statement as well stating that they are concerned about the dogs and they've delivered packages and the dogs are inside barking at them, or dog, I'm sorry, pit bull dog is inside barking at them through the window aggressively, but contained.
So I pulled up the code, and the dangerous dog designation, I don't think it's going to fit. You have to inflict severe injury on a human being without provocation anywhere, killing a pet while off the owner or keeper's property, so that doesn't fit, or aggressively bite, attack, or endanger safety of humans or pets after having previously found to be potentially dangerous. So that doesn't fit. So then so I don't think it can be declared dangerous. Potentially dangerous if unprovoked, and of course we have no eyewitnesses to whether it was provoked, but if unprovoked, it inflicts a bite on a human or pet anywhere. So that might work if it unprovokedly bit a pet, chases or approaches a person upon the streets, that's not going to fit, has a known propensity to attack unprovoked or to cause injury or otherwise threaten the safety of humans or pet or domestic animals. So A and C could apply as a potentially dangerous. I don't think we're going to get to dangerous, but that's just my shotgun reading of these provisions. Go ahead, Commissioner Mejia.
Do we have a letter from the owner of the pit bull? Like, because it seems like they were the ones who kind of saw.
No, the only thing that we have is the letter from Bella's owner, Ms. Anderson, stating what they had written to her. To decide to declare the dog as potentially dangerous, the owner will have 10 days to respond. The owner of the pit bull will have 10 days to respond to that and basically appeal the decision in front of the board.
Here's a caveat that the next section says, a dog shall not be declared potentially dangerous or dangerous if the threat, injury, or damage was sustained by a person, I guess that implies a human, who at the time was committing a willful trespass or other tort upon the premises occupied by the owner or keeper of the dog. Another pet and here's another subsection. Another pet or domestic animal has entered the property of the owner of the dog without invitation. Or the dog, when on a leash, is responding to an attack by another pet. So I don't know, 3D may be a defense for the pet owner to say, I don't know what it means by another pet or animal. I guess that would be this Bella has entered the property of the owner of the dog without invitation. So I don't know that we can get there. And you know, unless we went under 1C, which we said has a known propensity to attack unprovoked or cause injury or otherwise threaten the safety of humans or pets or animals. But if the sole evidence of that, there are other letters in here I haven't read. If there's a basis for concluding that without using the trespass of Bella, then maybe you can get there under that provision. I don't know. I think this requires some thought by the board.
Yeah, may I suggest that, I wasn't expecting for you to make a decision today. What I will do is probably make copies of the county code and distribute to the commissioners. You have this information before you. Then I'll bring this item next week and see where the board would like to go on this.
910070 is what we need, Romero.
Shouldn't we have at least this reviewed by our legal folks that'll say, yeah, this will apply or it won't, you know?
And Elizabeth is involved.
She is involved. Okay, good enough.
Okay, so keep this aside for next week.
I'll bring it next week.
Anything else on that item,
No, sir.
Romero?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll go to item 9.4, Blake decision, Administrative Office of the Courts, fund distribution, an informational item.
Yeah, this is for your information. We received a letter from the administrator of the courts, and this is somewhat of a little history for the board, where the legislature set aside money to help counties and jurisdictions to deal with the impact of the Blake decision. For a long while, we didn't have any response from the administrative office of the court, to the extent the WASAC, I believe maybe 3 weeks ago or so, sent a letter requesting as to how and when they would plan to distribute the funds. So this letter was sent and was distributed by WASAC, which highlights a potential contribution to Thurston County of $2.7 million, and that is located on page 3 of the attachment. It also includes an additional allocation to Superior Court, Thurston County, and this is about $161,553. There has been a lot of, and it's just informational, there has been a lot of chatter with WASAC related to whether they are considering or suggesting for the jurisdictions to sign on this agreement or not. So there's a lot of work that perhaps needs to be done. And I know Robin has been involved in all those conversations, and I will give her the floor here in a second to complement what I just stated. But again, this is just to bring to your attention. We have received this letter, which states some funding to Thurston County may not be enough. There may be some additional details that we need to work through it before we can receive this money. Robin?
So I have been working with the clerk, the Thurston County clerk, the Superior Court, going to have a conversation with District Court, the auditor, the treasurer, on how to book these funds and account for them. I've also been included in conversations about the letter because there is an additional if you look on page 6, $470,000 for Thurston County District Court. And there is a lot of conversation about this letter and the distribution. So the administrator of the courts will be sending out a contract for the county to sign. There is a lot of chatter about maybe counties shouldn't sign that contract at this time. There's quite a disproportion between the amount that is earmarked for district court is so much more than the amount for Superior Court, for the LFOs. There's just a lot of swirling around this, and the dust hasn't settled yet. The only thing we do know is that the clerk has orders from Superior Court to make payments, and they cannot delay with those. So payments are being made. We know we're going to have some money coming, at least this much, and where it lands. It's also all on a reimbursement basis. So we're gonna claim everything we spend, whether they allocate it appropriately or not. So this thing is a bit of a mess.
So I just want to bring this to your attention. I know the board was interested on this and past conversations, so, and we'll bring this item back again. We'll have additional information related to the distribution as well as the contract. And I have not seen personally the contract that we sent in, but it's a suggestion by WASAC, I believe, to hold off and not to rush and to sign that contract until we get a good information from the courts.
Yeah, the Auditors Association is also recommending not necessarily signing. But like I said, a lot of conversation about where we go. The administrator of the courts won't pay us anything without a contract in place. And the counties are weighing their options on whether or not to sign.
There's a lot of questions even related to why this money should be distributed to municipal courts.
Yes, that it was the proviso in the state budget specifically says it's for counties. So why is it going to cities? The whole thing is, there's a lot of questions about it.
Cities don't handle drug cases, so I don't really see how they would be able to, who are they refunding?
Well, that is a big part of the question.
That is the charter that is going around.
There is a speculation that the AOC is not using only drug cases as the basis for the allocation, but all cases. And hence you get this kind of a distribution. It doesn't make sense. So again, the more conversation to come.
So there's several cities that are receiving, and it's on page 2, Commissioner Menzer, if you'd like to see which cities are. It's under the municipal court level.
Yeah, and they won't necessarily receive, because this money would not come in a block grant form. They're not just gonna write us a check, which is a very unusual thing that we've seen a lot of recently. But, so if these cities don't have anything to be reimbursed for, they wouldn't be claiming anything. Again, there's a lot of questions around this letter.
Electric City's getting $142. For example.
Lacey Violations Bureau, they're getting 16,000. So, I mean, the thing for me, I've been on this Olympia Municipal Court, 110,000. I've been talking to legislators, and this process has been incredibly frustrating to me. Just because, I feel like we're hearing one thing from legislators, and then we're hearing something completely different from AOC, and I feel like the priorities are completely different. And every time I leave a meeting with a legislator, I feel like my hopes are up. And then anytime I go to Wasac and we receive these letters, it's like, well, that's not what we're getting told is going to happen. And
I have a question about, I don't know, Robin, if you know, but I keep seeing these letters and I haven't had anybody that I can ask. The phrase they keep using, I'm looking at paragraph 3 of the letter. They say, our proposal is to allocate funds to counties, and this is the language I'm curious about, based on a county's current Department of Corrections Blake in custody and supervision population. I don't really know what that means because we don't have, I mean, Thurston County doesn't have a Department of Corrections population, really. We don't have a prison here. Do they mean, why wouldn't they be referencing the origin of the case? What difference does it make where they're being housed or supervised? If the case originated here, then we're the court that would have to refund the LFO. So I'm not really sure why that is irrelevant, or first of all, I don't know what that means, and whatever it means, I'm not sure why it would be the right way to do it.
That argument has been made, Commissioner, to the AOC, because I don't think any of the counties think that that's a relevant way to allocate the money, but the AOC is saying we're going to use the information we have to make this initial allocation with the understanding that eventually they'll make us whole.
Just a follow-up comment. I mean, they're talking about giving the municipalities, I don't know, $30–40 million without any justification. I'd hate to see them get that and then not have anything left for the counties when the counties finally get together and sign. I'm curious about signing that. If the administrative office of the courts is not going to give anything, why couldn't we sign with a caveat or some kind of an addendum or something that to cover total costs when finally figured out or allocated? Is the Association of Counties going to do anything about unfunded mandate litigation?
I think that that's one of the reasons why the state has allocated money.
To try and get out from underneath
avoid
that?
an unfunded mandate.
Yeah, but they can't give it to the municipalities when they don't have any coming. I mean,
Well, I agree with you, and so do many others, and that's part of why we're trying to sort this out. As Romero said, we haven't seen the contract yet. No one at our county has seen this contract that's supposedly coming.
has anybody in any jurisdiction seen it that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are we staying in close touch with the Association of Counties on
Yes,
this?
we
It's
are.
a source of the conversation in every single meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's been an ongoing conversation. I feel like every time it gets more frustrating. My recommendation or my suggestion, and hopefully I can get a nod on this, is at this point, I feel like, a letter from the Board of County Commissioners to all of our legislators, because I know I'm knocking at all of their doors, letting them know that the situation is going on. But, I feel like with this going forward, I've sent them copies of everything I've received. And I'll probably send them this one as too. I'm pretty sure they're sick of hearing from me in regards to Blake. But maybe a letter, and maybe sending a letter to Wasac saying that, we do support that decision, because it really is frustrating. And this has been a conversation, Commissioner Menser, in regards to the DOC that Wasac has been fighting for since the very beginning. And it's just where the priorities for AOC are, and not what the priorities are for each of the counties. And that's been kind of the main frustrating point in all of this.
Romero?
Could I suggest, A letter is a great idea. Could you give us time until we receive the contract to give us the chance to assess what that contract is? And I think at that point also the organizations, the Association of the Clerks, the others, as well as WASAC, can probably have a global conversation as to what the terms of the contract is. And then we'll maybe determine whether the Board of County Commissioners a letter, or maybe just have a larger participation letter, perhaps from WASAC. Suggestion.
I have a suggestion to add on to Commissioner Mentzer's suggestion, and that is that we total up the suggested impact to the municipal courts, because it's a big number, and at least write a letter back to the administrative office of the courts. What is the justification for this $40 million expenditure going to municipal courts? We're very concerned that we're not getting any money at the county level yet, and we would hate to see a dispersal without any basis in fact, I guess, about the why. I'd like to put them on notice. What's that about? What's it here for? So that they don't go ahead with something and then say, well, dude, we never got notified about anything. We just sent out, we thought that's what we were supposed to do. And once the money's gone, you got a real nightmare on your hands. So
I can prepare a letter for whatever direction the board gives me.
What?
I'm just providing a suggestion.
What do my seatmates think about that?
There's a lot of moving pieces on this.
I have a second question, a follow-up question. And Robin, I know you were collecting data from our criminal justice departments in regards to the impact of Blake and what we've done so far. Where are we on that?
I'm behind on that. I need to get on that.
Okay, so I guess then we can wait until the contract comes out. That way we at least have an idea of that, and then add Commissioner Edwards' suggestion, and then send in that data along with it as well.
The letter, yeah. We can package it.
I guess my concern on waiting until the contract comes out, we might get the contract and find out that, well, so did all those municipalities, and they've all sent in, half the checks are written, and I'd like to put them on notice that something is amiss here, that we don't understand. Because if I'm hoping the county prosecutor has reviewed this as well, I'm thinking, and if he can't say, well, yeah, the municipal court's entitled to X, Y, and Z because of ABC, I want to let the administrative office of the courts know, wait a minute, you're headed down the wrong road here. So I want to get them on notice that they've come up with a potential error in distribution of state funds ahead of time, not wait until the contract comes out.
Yeah, I can draft the letter however you want me to draft the letter. That's not a problem.
I do believe that WASAC is addressing that very thing.
Well, I'd want to know that. I don't want to just take a chance that maybe they are.
So we have a administrators meeting this afternoon where I'm planning to bring all this up at the WASAC administrator meeting. Yes, ma'am.
I have another question. I didn't know Tenino or Tumwater had municipal courts.
We contract.
Yelm.
And I know in Yelm do, and I've appeared in their courts, and Tumwater used to, and now they're contracting with the county.
Okay, because they're included also in this, Tenino and Tumwater.
The Blake decision goes
1950
way
or
back
something.
when.
So then that's
1970s,
what they
that's
used
why.
to, okay.
So, I mean, I'm totally mystified. I don't have any answers or any insight as to the municipal versus district versus superior, but just on the bigger picture issue of the county allocation, if we look in that language that I highlighted, if you look at the first page of the matrix, which I guess is the third page of our handout, this is what I'm trying to get a hold of. I just assumed that they were doing it right, but they just weren't wording it in a very clear way. I just want to see if you guys agree with me. When it says Blake Court expenses allocation matrix, the blue bar at the top says in facility and supervised DOC population. Now, so they're just using data from the people that are under DOC purview, let's say. But what's not made clear in the letter or the matrix is what data. Are they looking at those population and then looking at where their case originated? If they did that, there'd be some logic to it at least. And if you look at the numbers, for example, Thurston is 1173. Well, you know, if we wouldn't have we don't have a prison here. We do have some people on supervision. But if you look at Pierce County's 3,000 and King County's only 2,100, which is strange. But I feel like looking at the relative numbers, they have to be, like Mason County, there's a prison, there's a DOC prison there. So they can't just be talking about where they're physically housed, even though that's kind of what's implied by the language. They have to be saying, based on the DOC in custody and supervised people, I guess the question is, where do these numbers come from? Is it where they live? Is it where their case number what court their case originated from? It's just not clear to me. That's just a question I had. Clearly, they're just using that as kind of a rough guide to try to allocate the money in relative, using the data. And again, I just want to know what piece of data they're using to do that division, that actual calculation of numbers. I think it would be logical once I knew what it was, because I can tell by the numbers here that there is some proportionality. It's not just where prisons are, for example. But then I completely don't understand this whole, then how are they dividing it up between Superior Court, District Court, and Municipal Courts? That's not explained in the letter, and it doesn't make any kind of common sense.
So the division between Superior, Municipal, and District Courts is specifically related to the LFOs. There's two pieces of funding that went to the administrator of the courts. And you see that in the language of the letter. It's what you've been talking about is the distribution of section 115 sub 5, which says that state appropriation is provided solely to assist counties with the cost of resentencing and vacating the sentences of defendants whose convictions or sentences are affected by Blake. And then it goes on to give more direction to the AOC, but not how to allocate it. And then sub 5, which is referenced in the last paragraph on page 1, section 115 sub 6, is money that is provided solely to establish a legal financial obligation aid pool to assist counties obligated to refund. And it's that second chunk of money that they have distributed to both counties and cities, even though the bill specifically calls out counties.
Yeah, and that is a good distinction, because on the tables that you have, the 44.5 million is on page number 3, which is related to, as you stated, the first part of the legislative action. And then the other table, the 23.5 million, is related to LFOs.
Right.
And that's how it's stated in the distribution. The issue is at least from my point of view, is the 23.5 that I think goes beyond the scope of the legislative action to include municipal courts.
Mike, I do have a question, because I've heard this before, but I'm hoping you to know the answer for the clarification. So for the 10-year look back that they're doing the cases for, so if the counties were to basically work on cases before that 10 years, does that mean we will not get reimbursed for those?
No, they're just using that as an allocation method. They've been looking for, how do we split up this money between the jurisdictions? And they chose to use data that they have handy and current.
Okay.
And counties have been saying, hey, we've got more than 10 years. 10 years does not necessarily reflect how we actually prosecuted cases. You know, 20, 30, 50 years ago. So please use this larger data set, and the AOC had said, no, we're going to use the data that we have, and here's our allocation. But they clearly say in this letter that it's simply an allocation, that you counties are going to be reimbursed. Send us your bills, we'll pay you, and everybody knows that what we've been appropriated now is not enough. So send in the bills. And I wonder, when our district court's not going to send any bills and our superior court sends in more, if we can't just get an allocation to Thurston County.
You see, that is, I think that is the key, and that's what I think it was a conversation should occur, as opposed to start splitting between district court and superior court. Just have an allocation to the counties,
right?
And with the counties go through the reimbursement basis when we have a complete assessment of the different cases among everybody involved,
right?
Really. Because they putting in what I call silos, you know, it makes it difficult. Because then we might miss some of the cases in district court may not qualify under this criteria, and we have a lot more need.
Right.
Sure.
There's also, there's also been chatter amongst the clerks about, the AOC has said if we get to the end of the year, they're going to take back money, and it was like, it's going to be a reimbursement basis. What do you mean you're going to take money back? Well, what they mean is that if they allocated too much to one county or city or whatever, and they're not claiming it, they'll reallocate that money to a county that has greater than what they've been allocated. You know, it's just, you've got money. I know they've got to do an allocation method. It tells them to in the law. They've got to do something. But at the end of the day, I think the important thing is that they're going to reimburse our costs, our actual costs.
And the actual cost, if I may, is not necessarily related in our case to the 1,173 cases.
That's right.
No, it's just the allocation method they use. And they acknowledge that on the second paragraph of the letter, although there's a lot of pushback. Yeah, it has. They needed to come up with some sort of allocation method. And through this method is a ceiling. They have imposed to Thurston County to $2.7 million. But we, as a county, we take all the cases involved within the Blake decision and start getting reimbursed.
Right.
My concern still is if we don't, get vested or make a proper notification by letter or something, if we don't put it in writing that we see some real problems here, and they move ahead, and maybe nobody notifies them. It kind of reminds me of you're living in an area and your power's out, and you think, well, the neighbor's gonna call it in. Well, if nobody calls it in, then you're sitting there with your power out for a long time. So I really think it would behoove us to put them on notice, the AOC folks on notice, hey, you're missing the boat here somewhere. Please clarify this before you make any distributions. Then work from there. But I think the quicker the better for us, as far as having a, legal leg to stand on if we go for an unfunded mandate at some point. And I would hope we'll include the prosecutor's office on putting this together in this decision. That's all. I don't care if the prosecutor signs the letter, or we sign it, or the chair of the county commission signs it, but I think somebody should put them on notice, hey, you boneheads, you're making a mistake here. And you don't have to use my terminology if you don't want, but.
I'd love to. But
I always step outside the bounds, so that's okay. I'll sign it. I don't care. Anyway, we need to do something, not just talk about it. We need to at least get something in writing that, hey, we've had this discussion, we're concerned, we don't see any justification for this dispersal, and maybe throw in there what you're suggesting, send it all to the counties and let them disperse it if it's a total deal.
Yeah, I'm open to, follow the direction of the board. It's just,
What about a letter? Can we get something going? Do my seatmates see where I'm concerned and have a legitimate concern?
I mean,
The only thing that I would add, I think what you just outlined is fine. And the only thing I would add is just, I'm specifically interested in, and you said this earlier, actually, Commissioner, that we want to understand the justification for the substantial allocations to municipal courts.
Yeah.
Because I'm not understanding that.
Me either. So, okay.
And then that would segue to the county manager's idea of, a better approach would be to let the counties distribute, amongst the various jurisdictions and courts, county by county, as the language of the statute contemplated explicitly, calling out counties,
Yeah.
Well, the language in the bill does not, what the language says is that the AOC must establish an application process. It doesn't tell them to work with counties on what an acceptable process is.
well, and that has been their approach from the beginning. They've been very standoffish.
But it doesn't hurt to at least make a suggestion to them. That's all. I mean, that's all we're
The
doing.
WASAC letter, I don't have it all right here at my fingertips, but the WASAC letters referenced very specific references to counties that was in the bill. So I know that there's an argument there that
Right.
the money was to go to us. Whether it's through the AOC or not might be vague, but it wasn't to be divvied up amongst municipal courts and everything else.
I agree with that. Both sections of this bill specifically says counties. Counties.
And the WhatsApp letter was very pointed.
Yeah.
weren't they also gonna give funding to OPD?
There is funding that the state is running through the Office of the Public Defender, and we've received a very small amount that's actually already in our pocket. We've also been promised, I want to say $260,000 a year for the next 2 years. So we have an email that indicates that's how much the county will receive for public defense. We don't have a letter from public defense or an award.
Okay.
But that's additional in addition to this.
Okay.
Chair, do you have any problem with giving the county manager a nod to put something together, kind of encapsulating what we've been talking about here?
No, no problem.
Okay. Sounds like we got a letter in the making.
Yeah, my only is to send in the data from our criminal, just because I feel like the numbers will speak pretty loudly on how proactive we've been.
So I'm hearing two things then. Just draft a letter highlighting the concerns of this allocation, wait to send that letter until we get the data.
Okay, let me make a suggestion there.
Because
with follow-up to come with data.
No, because the data was to the legislators, not to the AOC.
I feel like the numbers still speak. I mean, if the data's not ready, then, just the letter will suffice. But I feel like sometimes the numbers do speak really loudly on what our county specifically has been doing and how proactive we've been.
Right. I've been talking to the clerk and the court, Superior Court. When this letter came out, it was like, what's district court doing on there? So I need to start talking to them to see if the impact is really historical, or if it's, no, now they're gonna start handling cases, because I think that would be a very relevant thing to say. If our district court says, we don't have these, why are we getting money? That's a conversation I need to find out, and I need to call Frankie.
So I'll drop the letter for your consideration.
Yeah.
When I saw that district court, I thought, oh, this is a broader pool of money that's going to help with the implementation of the Blake fix, you know, because then drug cases are going to shift to district court and stuff. But if you read the letter, no, this is about reimbursements. I mean, this doesn't make sense.
Right. Right, it doesn't
not-
make sense at all. And especially that the district court allocation is so much larger than the Superior Court amount.
Right.
Nothing about this makes sense.
Okay, well, it's 12. We've got one more topic to cover here. Let's get to item 9.5, a follow-up on public testimony regarding board meeting minutes and ordinances.
Yeah, you also received a public testimony last week related to board meeting minutes and ordinances. We post online, and Amy's going to walk you through that particular program.
Hello, Amy Davis, clerk of the board.
You have your microphone on.
Yeah, it's on.
Speak up, Amy. I can barely hear you.
Get your microphone up.
Is this better?
Little bit.
Okay. Minutes, resolutions, and ordinances have been uploaded to the system. We were behind on a few, and there are still a few being routed for various signatures. But once those are, they will be on there as well. So the rest are accessible online on our website through Laserfish. A part of the issue is the gaps we have in our systems with the agenda items and documents. The fix to this is the meeting management system project I'm working on. And a super quick update on that is that the vendor has registered with the MRSC. So I will now be able to move forward, and I hope to implement by year end and to have that system in use by the 1st of next year. So this is something we are working on and have a plan in place.
Are you going to give an update today, sir, about?
Yeah, I'll update today on the Veterans Fund as well as the meeting minutes.
I think that'll do. Thank you.
I don't like being behind Lewis County on anything, so we got to get our minutes up there quicker. Commissioner Mejia, anything?
No, sir.
Okay, we're out of time for commissioner items, so anything that has to be addressed here before we adjourn?
No, sir.
Okay, we're adjourned. See you guys at 2.
See you at 2.